In the heart of Manhattan, a refined restaurant attracts select and demanding customers. Frequented by high society figures and executives who come to the place to close big deals, Ambrose is one of the most renowned places in the city. The elegant environment with glass walls and exquisite chandeliers makes it clear that anyone who steps there belongs to the world of the wealthiest. However, the restaurant hides a secret. Its real owner, a reserved and discreet man, has never been seen by most of the employees. Ambrose's chef, Alejandro, is one of the few who knows the man who really holds the power there. Oliver Bennett, the owner, is a businessman who built his fortune silently, preferring to observe everything from afar. An African American, Oliver is known for his discretion and for not liking being the center of attention. Even at the most important events, he chooses to mingle with guests rather than make extravagant appearances. This stance helps him maintain control over his business, but it also creates an invisible distance between him and his employees. The story begins on an ordinary morning. Oliver decides to visit the restaurant incognito, wearing casual clothes and a cap, posing as a regular customer. He wants to observe how the service is and have a real experience in his own restaurant. That's when he meets Madison, a waitress with a direct style and an attitude that borders on arrogance. Working there for more than 5 years, she considers herself an essential part of the place. Her experience and VIP clientele make her confident to the point of acting with some disdain towards those she thinks do not fit into the restaurant's profile. As soon as Oliver sits down, he notices Madison's gaze as she quickly assesses him from head to toe. He smiles, imagining that he will be treated like any other customer. However, he does not expect that Madison's trial will be the first sign of a conflict that will reveal much more than he had planned. As soon as Oliver sits at a table near the window, he observes the details of the restaurant. He feels a discreet pride in seeing the bustling environment, with each element carefully selected, from the wallpaper to the crystal glasses. He remembers that he designed that place to welcome people of all types, but realizes that, over time, the Ambrose transformed into a stronghold of exclusivity and status. Madison approaches, with a look that mixes impatience and condescension. Instead of a warm smile, she sighs as Oliver evaluates the menu. His cap, simple jeans, and lack of an expensive watch or jewelry seem to have convinced her that he doesn't belong. "And then? Have you decided what you're going to order?" Madison asks in a dry tone without disguising her disinterest. Oliver watches her in silence for a moment, as if trying to understand the reason behind her attitude. He notices that while serving other customers, Madison displays an entirely different expression, offering warm smiles and a friendly demeanor. To him, it is clear that she sees most of her clients as valuable, and others like him as a nuisance. Patiently, he orders a simple dish and a glass of water. Madison seems to hesitate, looking at him as if she's considering suggesting a more expensive dish. "Are you sure that's all you want?" Oliver confirms with a nod and, as he watches her walk away, reflects on how that treatment would become an important topic in the team meeting he plans to conduct soon. While waiting for his order, Oliver begins to observe Madison. He notices the agile pace with which she moves between tables, always with the customers she considers important. Her ability to understand customers' preferences and act accordingly makes her a valuable employee, but he also realizes that this quality is lost in the selective filter she applies. Oliver has a deep understanding of customer service and knows that her judgment, however subtle, affects the experience of customers she considers less important. Shortly after the order arrives, Madison's new attitude surprises Oliver. She completely ignores him. While pouring a glass of wine to a customer at the next table, he tries to get her attention to ask for an extra napkin, but Madison avoids eye contact. He observes the change in her countenance as she treats the customer next to her, a man in an expensive suit and a shiny watch. Oliver smiles with a mixture of incredulity and interest. Noticing her continued behavior, Oliver wonders how many clients in the past must have experienced the same situation without him knowing. However, he remains calm, preferring to continue with his experiment until the end. He then finishes his meal and pays the bill, leaving a generous tip that seems momentarily to disconcert Madison. She watches him as he leaves, still having no idea that the simple man she just served is, in fact, the owner of the restaurant where she has worked for years. For her, he's just another customer. But for Oliver, that morning represents a chance to bring to light something he's always believed is fundamental. All customers deserve respect, regardless of their appearance. The next day, Oliver decides to return to the restaurant, but this time dressed more refined, with a tailored suit and a watch that discreetly attracts attention. He positions himself in the entrance hall, where Madison and other employees rush by to start the lunch rush. This time he comes with a strong presence. Oliver Bennett is no longer an anonymous client. He's there as Ambrose's owner. When Alejandro, the restaurant's chef, sees Oliver, he quickly approaches to greet him. The two exchange a firm handshake, and Alejandro makes a point of guiding him to a central table, surrounded by an air of surprise and curiosity from the employees who didn't know him. The chef announces that Oliver wants to speak to the team and asks everyone to stop what they are doing and gather at the front of the room. Madison, upon seeing the man she had treated with disdain the day before, feels her stomach drop. She remembers his face perfectly, and the memory of her treatment of him comes with an uncomfortable weight. However, he still doesn't understand who he really is until the moment when Alejandro, with a proud smile, turns to the employees and says, "This is Mr. Oliver Bennett, founder and owner of Ambrose." The impact is immediate. Murmurs of surprise run through the room. Madison feels the blood drain from her face. She can't believe that the man she considered unimportant is the restaurant owner himself. Oliver observes the employees' reactions, noticing the mix of surprise, respect, and apprehension in Madison's eyes. Maintaining a calm expression, he decides to break the silence. "Thank you for being here," he begins, his steady, calm voice echoing through the room. "I decided to spend some time here over the last few days to see how operations are going and observe how each customer is treated. It's important to me that Ambrose is a place where everyone who walks through these doors feels respected, no matter who they are." He pauses, his gaze deliberately passing over Madison, who tries to avoid looking at him. "Yesterday, I had an experience with a regular customer, something I don't do often, and I realized that some of our agents choose how to treat customers based on personal judgments." His tone remains serene, but the weight of the words falls like a sentence. "This is the type of behavior we need to eliminate." Madison starts to sweat. She understands that Oliver is speaking directly to her, and his calm expression makes her more nervous than any violent reaction. Feeling the tension, she thinks about apologizing, but Oliver isn't done yet. "I'll make it clear," he continues. "For Ambrose to remain one of the best restaurants in New York, we need to treat every customer like someone special. Whether they're a regular worker or a CEO, everyone deserves the same respect and attention." He finally looks directly at Madison, and for the first time, she sees something other than calm in his eyes. Silent disappointment. "We will reevaluate our team and our service values," concludes Oliver. "And I would like to remind everyone that respect and empathy are the values that built this restaurant and that will keep it standing." Oliver then excuses himself to speak to Alejandro and some managers in private, leaving Madison and the other employees scattered, still under the impact of his presence. Madison's humiliation is visible, and she feels exposed, aware that her colleagues realize Oliver's words were intended for her. As soon as Oliver leaves the room with Alejandro and the managers, Madison feels herself sinking into a whirlwind of emotions. Your face is still hot with embarrassment, and the curious looks from your colleagues don't help. She was always proud of her role at the restaurant, believing that her firm and selective stance was part of the charm that made Ambrose so special. However, now she begins to realize how this attitude of superiority was at odds with the values that the restaurant owner himself holds dear. Some colleagues approach discreetly to console her. "Madison, are you okay?" asks Clara, a younger waitress who has always looked up to her. Madison shakes her head, still processing everything. I just need some time to think." That day, Oliver decides to observe the operations from a distance. He stays in the office where he monitors the salon through security cameras, analyzing every interaction. For him, this is an opportunity to make adjustments not only to the team, but also to the restaurant's culture. In his vision, Ambrose needs to be a place where the experience is memorable for everyone, and where every employee feels proud to treat everyone with respect and equality. At the end of the shift, Oliver asks Madison to come to his office. She arrives hesitantly, not knowing what to expect but already mentally preparing herself for a possible dismissal. When she enters, Oliver is sitting calmly behind her desk, watching her silently for a moment before speaking. "Madison, please sit down," he says, pointing to the chair across from him. She obeys, taking deep breaths to stay calm. "Do you know why I called you here?" "Yes, sir. It was because of the way I treated you yesterday," she replies, lowering her gaze. I'm sorry. I was wrong." Oliver watches her for a moment longer, gauging the sincerity in her words. "Madison, the reason I called you is not just because of what happened yesterday, but because I believe someone with your experience and dedication can be part of the change I want to see here." She looks up, surprised. It wasn't what she expected to hear. Oliver continues, "You have talent, Madison. I see how hard you work to ensure that our most demanding customers are satisfied. But what you may not understand is that respect and service cannot be selective. Being a high-end restaurant does not mean that we should discriminate against our customers, but rather treat them all as special." Madison, touched by his calm and openness, feels the words sink in deep. The truth is that beneath the layer of pride she carried, she had an insecurity that expressed itself in the form of judgment. The restaurant was the place where she projected an image of success and exclusivity, and over time, she began to see some people as intruders. "I understand, Mr. Bennett. I never thought that my way was going against what you want for the restaurant. I think I ended up getting lost in my own role here," she admits sincerely. Oliver nods with a slight smile. "Madison, what matters is that you have that willingness to improve. I'm going to give you a second chance because I believe you can be one of the leaders on our team. But I want to see that change in your behavior with all customers." She thanks him, relieved and determined to prove that she can do things differently. As she leaves the office, Madison feels a weight lift off her shoulders, but she also feels responsibility. For the first time, he realizes that perhaps true success lies in humility and the value given to each person. Over the next few days, Madison begins to apply what she learned. Your behavior changes noticeably, and little by little, other employees notice the difference. Customers she would previously ignore now receive a genuine smile, and those who previously only received cordiality receive special attention. Oliver, observing the changes, feels satisfied. He realizes that his silent gesture generated a transformation, not only in Madison but in the entire team. The environment becomes lighter and more inviting, and the change in attitude is reflected in the atmosphere of the restaurant, which now seems more welcoming to everyone. Weeks pass, and Ambrose flourishes in the new atmosphere of inclusion. The restaurant's success grows and the team works in harmony. Madison, now more aware of her role, becomes one of the most dedicated servers, treating all customers with respect and genuine attention. Then, on a busy afternoon, while the restaurant is in the midst of lunch service, a group of investors visits the Ambrose. Madison, observing the group of men in smart suits who have just entered, realizes that among them is Oliver. Smiling, he greets the group and leads them to a reserved table. The group appears serious, and their conversation suggests they are there for an important business meeting. Madison walks over to take the order. Oliver recognizes her with a subtle, friendly wave, and she maintains her professional demeanor, serving the group with all the dedication and attention she has learned to apply to all clients. She doesn't fully hear the conversation, but she notices words like merger and new management, which makes her curious. The meeting continues for hours, and Oliver seems anxious. Finally, the group says goodbye and leaves the restaurant, leaving Oliver thoughtful. When Madison returns to the table to collect the glasses, she notices that he has stayed behind, observing the room with a distant gaze. Deciding not to miss the opportunity, she approaches. "Everything okay, Mr. Bennett? Did the meeting go as expected?" she asks, trying not to be nosy. Oliver sighs, giving a resigned smile. "Actually, Madison, the decision has been made. I'm going to sell Ambrose. The time has come for me to follow a new path. The news hits her like a shock. Madison can't hide her surprise and sadness. Sell the restaurant, she repeats incredulously. Yes, he confirms. I've been managing Ambrose for many years, and I know it's time to pass on the legacy. He pauses, looking around. But I am sure that the new group will maintain the values we have built. It's a new phase for everyone. Madison feels a mix of emotions. She grew professionally there, and in recent times she had changed and learned a lot from Oliver's attitude. The idea that he would no longer be part of that environment leaves her shaken. Mr. Bennett, I want you to know that your guidance and trust have changed the way I view work and people, she says sincerely. Oliver looks at her with a look of pride. That's what makes me most happy about leaving the restaurant, knowing that people like you will continue to make it a special place. In the months that follow, Oliver follows the restaurant's progress from afar, but stays away from operations. To his surprise, the new management chooses to place Madison as Ambrose's manager. She receives the news with a mix of gratitude and responsibility, feeling determined to honor Oliver's legacy and maintain the restaurant's welcoming and inclusive spirit. And then, on a cold winter night, Ambrose receives a discreet customer, dressed simply and wearing a cap, just as Oliver had done in the past. Madison recognizes him immediately and smiles. She takes him to a table near the window and serves him with all the attention that the original owner always recommended. Oliver says goodbye to her with a smile and a simple thank you, but she knows that behind that gesture is silent approval and a vote of confidence. Madison watches as he walks away from the restaurant, knowing that he left much more than a business legacy. He left a lesson that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. A few years later, Ambrose is one of New York's most prestigious restaurants, but now it's known for more than its impeccable cuisine. Under Madison's management, the place gained fame for its welcoming atmosphere and the careful attention given to all customers, from celebrities to ordinary people. The restaurant has become an example of inclusion and respect in haute cuisine service, attracting both local customers and tourists from all over the world. Madison, now a mature and respected woman in the industry, keeps a photograph of Oliver in her office, taken the day he officially handed over management to her. The image is a constant reminder of the humility and values he taught her. On many days, when she faces difficult situations, she turns to those teachings and remembers how it all began. One night, while closing the restaurant, she receives a letter from Oliver. In the letter, he says that he moved to a small town in the countryside and opened a cooking school for low-income young people. He says that he has always believed that gastronomy is a bridge between cultures, and that, thanks to this passion, he was able to find purpose in helping people find their own path. He ends with a thank you, saying how proud he is to see her moving Ambrose forward with so much heart. Madison closes the letter with an emotional smile, storing it fondly next to the photograph. For her, that piece of paper carries the greatest approval she could receive. And so, Ambrose continues, not just as a high-class restaurant, but as a place that carries a story of transformation, respect, and humility, where every guest is welcome, and every team member knows that their value does not depend on not just his title, but how he treats each person who passes through those doors. Did you like the story of Madison and Oliver at Ambrose? So don't forget to subscribe to follow more inspiring and exciting stories like this. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any news. Like to show your support and leave your thoughts on the character's journey in the comments. Your opinion is very important to us.